It's time for the UNX News. Extraterrestrials, time anomalies, dimensions, remote viewing, UFOs, UAPs, and USOs, ghostly encounters, abductions, Bigfoot, and more. Your end of the week news source for everything unexplained. Here is your host for the UNX News Podcast, Margie K.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Margie K. Welcome to UNX News, here for another interesting Friday evening, and we've got a great show for you tonight, so do stick with me throughout the program. I think you will enjoy it. We've got a couple of announcements to make about some books. I want you to check this one out, The Fast Movers, Evidence of High-Speed UFOs and UAPs, by myself, Bill Spicer, and Wayne Lawrence. And forthcoming here very shortly, the end of September, we have a new book coming out that will be a second edition to The Fast Movers, plus more. So I think you'll enjoy that. We also have some fun stuff at UNX Media. We've got some coloring books, and our latest one, of course, is the paranormal coloring book for adults. And this one is not for kids, it's for adults. So if you'd like to use that for meditation purposes or just to relax, it's just some fun things that we've added. Of course, we've got new books always coming up at UNX Media Publishing and our monthly newsletter, which if you are a member of the X, you might want to join if you're not, so that you will get our monthly newsletter, and then at different levels, you'll get different perks, and one of them is the magazine. You can get it digital magazine, or you can purchase a print copy at MagCloud, and all of that info is on our website at unxnetwork.com. This evening, my special guest is whistleblower Dr. Gregory Rogers. He comes forward to share what he witnessed at Cape Canaveral years ago that turned out to be ETIG technology. Dr. Gregory Rogers has served as a flight surgeon within the Department of Defense since 1984. He was initially stationed in West Germany during the Cold War days. As part of his duties, he assisted during a deployment of the nuclear Pershing II interregional ballistic missiles to West Germany. He was solo certified in the TH-55, but also flew the UH-1 Huey, the OH-58 Scout, and the AH-1 Cobra attack helicopter. Being attached to NASA for support of the manned spaceflight program, he supported 31 space shuttle launches, 14 landings at Kennedy Space Center, and numerous rescue and contingency exercises at KSC. He authored the Transoceanic Abort Landing Summary and the Kennedy Space Center Shuttle Landing Facility Support Documents for Department of Defense flight surgeons for their possible operations to rescue and treat the NASA astronauts. The book, which we are going to talk about this evening, was released on August 21st, and it's available at Amazon. Welcome to the program, Dr. Rogers.
Well, I'm very pleased to be here. It's an honor.
Well, thank you so much for joining me this evening. And of course, UNX Media recently published your book. And of course, we're going to be discussing that tonight. And so I think what we should start with is a little bit of your background. How did you, first of all, get interested in medicine?
Well, actually, I wasn't originally interested in medicine. I wanted to be a pilot. So I tried to get into the Air Force ROTC, but my eyes were not suitable for that. So I went on to college, got accepted to medical school. Then when I was in medical school, I found out, they have special rules for flight surgeons. You don't have to have the perfect vision because you went to medical school. So when I found that out, I decided I want to be a flight surgeon. So I went through flight training and ended up supporting operations in West Germany first, and then was the chief of aerospace medicine at Cape Canaveral for the 45th Space Wing, which included Patrick Air Force Base, Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, the Eastern Space and Missile Center, and the Eastern Missile Range. In those duties, I had to support space shuttle operations along with NASA. So I got my NASA certification as a flight surgeon, and got involved in a whole lot of stories.
Oh, I'll bet you've got a few you could share with us. Well, why don't we just pick one? Why don't you share with us one of the most interesting stories you've got?
Well, this was one of those very strange things that happen when you're in third world countries. I had gone to purchase some postcards, and I was going to mail them because I was in the nation of the Gambia. So I had some relatives, and I thought they're never going to be able to get postcards from the Gambia again. So I purchased 8 of them, and I ran out of the local money that they have, the Dalasi. Well, as soon as I started to leave, the owner of the shop got very upset and said, "Oh no, you must buy postcard stamps. You bought postcards from me. I must sell you stamps." And I said, "Well, it's not that big a deal. I'll just get them at the hotel." And he said, "Oh no, you can't do that." And I just sort of blew him off. Well, I went back to the hotel and exchanged dollars for more Dalasi. And while doing so, I said, "Hey, I want to get 8 stamps." And he said, "What kind of stamps?" And I said, "Postcard stamps. I have 8 postcards. I just need 8 postcard stamps." And he said, "Oh, well, we have many different kinds of postcards you can purchase." And I said, "Well, no, I don't want the postcards. I just want the stamps." And he said, "Oh, no, in the Gambia, you must buy stamps where you buy the postcards." And I said, "Well, I didn't do that. So, slap me on the wrist, but let me buy 8 postcard stamps." Well, he would not let me do it. So I was going out into the street, and there was this pushcart guy that was selling cigarettes. And he said, "I have cigarettes, even American cigarettes." And I said, "Look, I don't smoke. I'm not interested. The only thing you could have that I would be interested in was postcard stamps." Well, this little boy jumped up and ran over to me and said, "My uncle, he has stamps." And I said, "Okay, postcard stamps?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "But I don't want to buy the postcards." He said, yes, that is good. Come to my uncle." So he led me across this dirt road into this small little dirty shopping area. And as we went through, he went all the way to the back, and there was a gate leading back behind the shopping area. Well, as soon as I saw that the gate was going back to where there wasn't anybody there, I said, "Hold it a second. I'm not going to go with you." About that time, 2 guys with machetes stepped out from behind me, and this guy's uncle came over and he said, "You want stamps. You want cocaine." And I said, No, I don't. I do not want cocaine." And he said, "It is the best cocaine. It comes from Colombia." I said, "Look, I don't care where it comes from. I do not want cocaine. I don't even want postcard stamps right now. I need to go." And he said, "Oh, but it's the best cocaine you ever tried." I said, "Look, I've never tried cocaine." And he said, "Oh, try it. You'd like it. You'd like it." And these people are circling me now. So I decided, man, this is getting worse by the second. So I decided I would raise the stakes. There were a lot of European tourists that were there. And so, hassling European tourists in Africa may not be that big of a deal. But I raised my voice real loud and said, I'm an American military officer with the United States Air Force. I'm here to support space shuttle operations. I am supposed to meet my comrades across the street at the hotel, and they're waiting for me now. I must go. So I pushed aside the two guys with the machetes and walked through them thinking, oh, Lord, don't let them have guns. As I started to leave, the cocaine guy came up and he said, I do you favor. You do no favor for me. What favor you do me? And so I was just trying to get rid of him, but he was following me. So finally, I pulled out a $5 bill, which was the equivalent of like 50 cents. And so I handed it to him and said, this is the only thing you will get from me. So you take it and leave. So he smiled real big and took the $5 bill and said, you my friend, you come back. I sell you cocaine. He turned around and went back. I was moving. I wasn't running, but I was moving as fast as you could without running. So
oh my gosh.
I got back to the hotel. The next day we were going into Banjul, which was the capital. So I made sure that having learned my lesson, I went to a shop. I bought 8 new postcards and 8 new postcard stamps.
Mm-hmm. I'll bet you did.
I didn't want anything more to do with two guys with machetes and somebody trying to sell me cocaine.
You know, that is one of the riskiest things when you're in a foreign country, is to go off the beaten path for tourists. Tourists should never do that. I've done it myself. I will never do it again, because sometimes you get in a situation you don't know if you're going to be going back. You don't know if you're getting back on the boat or anything.
Yeah, when I got to that gate, I said, no way, I am not going through that gate. Nobody knows where I am. I could disappear. They'd never know. I am not going through that gate. So that's a story that sort of sounds funny now when other people hear it. It's still not real funny from my standpoint, but it certainly was not funny at the time it was going on.
No, indeed. So you served as a flight surgeon with the Department of Defense since 1984 until when?
Until 1995.
Till 95. And then you were working until you recently retired, correct?
Yes, I was the medical director at the McAllister Army Ammunition Plant for 14 years. When I started, I was a Department of the Army civilian, but during the course of the time that I was there, they decided to try to do a new thing. So they tried to take all of the civilian medical officers and put them under the Defense Health Agency that would be above any of the branches. And that way, if the Army needed somebody, we could take one of these guys and give it to the Army. If the Navy needed one of those guys, they'd give them to the Navy. Now, as soon as I heard that, I said, that is going to be a complete failure. The Army, the Navy, the Air Force, Marines, and especially the Navy wants to do everything totally different from everybody else. You are not going to get these people to accept doing things the Air Force way or the Army way, because everything in the Navy had to be done the Navy way. So it's still a mess. It's going to be a mess for years, but at least when I retired, I don't have to deal with it anymore.
Oh, well, that's good. I'll bet. Okay, so we've got a few pictures here. I'm just going to throw these up and I'll let you talk about them.
Okay, that was when I was in Germany. That's a UH-60 with the 3rd Infantry Division. At the time that I was serving in that unit, we were protecting the inter-German border. So as we flew along the border, we could see the East Germans and the Soviet military on the other side of the fence. So it was not a question of what are we here for. All we have to do is look across the fence, and we could see Soviet troops with Soviet missiles, tanks, and everything else. So we wanted to make sure that when they looked across the fence to our side, they saw our helicopters, our tanks, our missiles, and so forth. A lot of people say, well, the Cold War wasn't really a war. Yes, it was. There were people dying all the time in a lot of ways that the government never fully explained. So I knew of people who died performing ferret missions in East Germany that their families were just told they died in a training accident. And so because of the nature of the event, the families were not even given Purple Hearts for the deaths of their loved ones.
Oh, dear. That's... sometimes our government does bad things.
Well, when you're war, everybody does bad things.
Yeah.
This one was me and Buzz Aldrin. When I originally wrote the space shuttle novel Impact, he read it. He contacted Hugh Harris, who was the head of public affairs at Kennedy Space Center. He knew some people who knew me, and next thing I know, Buzz Aldrin was calling me, and he said, "You know, I really like your book. I've got a book coming out in about 3 or 4 weeks. How would you like to do a joint book signing with me?" Well, naturally, I said, "Sure, I'd love to do it." So we ended up keeping in touch for about a year and a half, but he agreed to take a picture of my book and authorized me to use it to promote the book or in anything else I needed to do with it. So Buzz Aldrin's great. A lot of people don't realize it, but Neil Armstrong was the first one to put his foot on the moon. But they wouldn't have gotten back if it weren't for the fact that Buzz Aldrin saved their lives. When they got back into the lunar module, one of the levers had been broken, and it was the lever to ignite the ascent engine. So that's how they were going to get off the moon. When they talked to the NASA people at Houston, they said, "What's the workaround on this?" And they said, "Well, there is no workaround. We never imagined anything like this." Well, Buzz Aldrin ended up saying, "You know, I can take my pen and, if I move the housing, I think I can slide my pen in there and close that circuit." So while they're counting down 10, 9, 8, 7, he's standing there with his pen. And when they get to 0, he punches that, closes the circuit. The engine ignites and they leave the moon. If that circuit had not closed, they were not coming back from the moon. So
oh my goodness.
Neil got the first step, but Buzz Aldrin saved their lives.
Brought him back home. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Those are the stories you don't hear about. Okay, what about this one?
Okay. That one is the Space Shuttle Support Program plaque that they gave me. You probably can't read it under the flag, but it said "Flag flown aboard Space Shuttle." They told me this particular flag was flown aboard Atlantis and was in space for more than 3 million nautical miles. And then as I was leaving the space shuttle program, they presented it to me.
Very nice. Not too many people get those.
Doesn't everybody have a flag
don't
flown by a space shuttle?
No, they don't.
I guess not. Okay. This is me in this flight jacket, but this was another one of the things that they presented me. This is sort of a small statue of the space shuttle, and it's really beautiful to look at. The picture doesn't do it justice, but on the wooden pad that it's holding on, it says that it's dedicated to me for my vital services to the space program.
So you were very involved with the space program. You did a number of things, many things. Most people do not get as many things done in one lifetime as you did. And then in 1992, something really strange happened to you.
Yeah.
So
that's when things really changed.
Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to hear the story from Dr. Gregory Rogers. And you do not want to miss this. So please hang out. We'll be back right after this.
The UNX Network presents a health and wellness spiritually based brand of hemp-derived CBD products made by Hopewell Farm in Harrogate, Tennessee. We apply our Cathara energy work with all of our plants and products. Our products made in small batches with only 2 ingredients of pure hemp, full spectrum crude oil, and coconut-derived MCT oil. Third-party lab tested for potency and legal THC levels with 6 strengths of 1 ounce oil to choose from. Know what you're buying and get what you pay for from Hopewell Farm. Applied directly to a specific area, Hopewell Farm topical salve in 1 ounce and ½ ounce sizes made with pure hemp crude oil, comfrey extract, and all natural ingredients. Find the Hopewell Farm link and coupon code on the UNX Network website at unxnetwork.com. That's unxnetwork.com.
Get ready to attend the Route 66 UFO Festival this September 5th through the 7th in Livingston, Illinois. Visit the Mothership Market Vendors Mall, packed with over 50 vendors. There's a 5K alien chase run, car cruise in, and don't miss the intergalactic Route 66 pinup contest. Folks, there's live bands and a whole lot more. Speakers include Debbie Zagelmeyer and the Margie K. They'll be there with brand new presentations, and you can share your UFO stories at the town hall meeting. Visit PinkElephantAntiqueMall.com, or you can look up the Pink Elephant Antique Mall on Facebook. That's PinkElephantAntiqueMall.com for all the information you need about the 3rd annual Route 66 UFO Festival. Don't you dare miss it. Hey everybody, here's a Conference Connection spot.
Now, a little technical difficulties there, but we're back with UNX News. I'm Margie K, and this evening we are speaking with Dr. Gregory Rogers. He is a whistleblower, and he is going to share with us right now what happened to him at Cape Canaveral in 1992.
Okay. Well, I was the chief of aerospace medicine, so one of the things that I was responsible for doing was checking the medical facilities and the safety of all of the facilities that we had on Cape Canaveral. Most people were in compartmentalized security. So if they worked in 2 buildings, their security would only let them go to those 2 buildings. The idea of compartmentalization security was that we didn't have people from one area of the base going to another area of the base and learning secret information that they were not authorized to have or didn't have a need to know. So there were 3 new operations that had been recently upgraded. Even though the Air Force owned Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, the primary contractor was EG&G. Now, for people who know the military, they know EG&G is involved with a lot of stuff. Well, this particular day, an escort was going to take me to 3 different facilities, show me how the operations had changed, what they were doing, and then I was going to leave. So we went to the first building, everything seemed normal. Went to the second building, everything seemed normal. Went to the third building, and everything seemed normal going in. So we went into this clean room. So I had to put on this hair bonnet, put on rubber gloves, wear this heavy lab coat, and then put non-electrostatic booties on my shoes, because even while you were walking around, if you created static and touched one of the electronic parts, you could potentially do damage. So I got the tour through that area, saw what all was going on, and everything seemed fine. So as he and I exited, the EG&G escort was doing this all the time. So he just whip, and he said, "Okay, Doc, I'm out of here." He had all of his stuff done. Well, it took me a little bit longer to get my gloves off, hang my lab coat up, take my little booties off. So I was maybe 1 minute behind him. But because of that, as I walked out of that preparation room, I walked into the hallway, and there was a gentleman who was standing off to my right. He was a major in the Air Force, and from the details on his uniform, I could tell he was a space launch guy. Now, I was a flight surgeon at Patrick Air Force Base. We had 2 full-time flight surgeons, and then we had a 3rd flight surgeon that would help out whenever possible. But we were supporting 1,800 people. So we were doing flight physicals on everybody. We were doing space launch physicals on everybody, and then providing routine medical care for them. And so we saw a lot of people come through. And, if all I did was a flight physical and then turned him loose, and it's a year and a half later, I don't remember him, but having been the doctor, he remembered me. So he said, "Hey, Doc, I've got something to show you." I said, "Okay, what is it?" He said, "I've got something that even you have never seen." And he held his finger up just like that. Well, I believe the reason that he said that was I was talking about compartmentalization because of my security clearance and the need for me to see what all was going on in the facilities all over the Cape. I could actually go into about 80% of the facilities. There were some facilities that I still wasn't authorized to go into, but I could go into the vast majority of the facilities, and most people couldn't. So he said, "Come in here and let me show this to you." So he took me into this little office. He shut the door and locked it. There was these louvers on the windows, and so he closed the louvers as well. So I'm starting to think, exactly what's going on here. Well, he sat down at his computer station. There were 4 computer stations in this office, and so he sat down at the 3rd one, which I assumed was his. Well, he turns on the computer, he turns on the console, and he's working all this stuff, and he's real excited to show me something. Well, he finally gets the screen up, and he says, "Here it is." So he moved one seat over to the left, and I sat down in his seat so that I could see the computer screen just as I'm doing right now. Well, when I looked at the screen, I was very surprised. It looked like a regular flight hangar that would be common anywhere in the military. However, what was in the hangar was not at all usual. It was a disc type craft. It was 20 foot wide. It was about 8 to 10 feet tall. There was a small dome on the vertex of it. A mast came up out of that, and then attached to the mast were 3 umbilicals that went off out of sight. So I looked at this and I said, what on earth are we doing with a craft like this? And he said, well, I can't really tell you. I said, well, where did we get it? And he looked at me, and this is exactly what he did, which is where the name of the book comes from. He said, we got it from them. To space.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I certainly would not expect that any normal aircraft would be made in this configuration. Well, there were 2 guys off to the left that looked like engineer types, and there were 3 guys to the far right, and they looked like they were in Tyvek suits. So I'm sitting there looking at this, and all of a sudden this sort of bell goes off. And so it's like, okay, everybody clear. We're about to start our testing. Now then, this vehicle was pearly white. The surface of it looked perfect. There were no seams, no rivets. There was no pitot tubes, no propulsion, nothing at all that I would consider an emblem of a normal vehicle. Well,
nothing standard.
As I'm watching this, all of a sudden it becomes active, and these electromagnetic discharges start occurring all around the vehicle. As soon as I saw that, I was really shocked. As that continued, there were some other characteristics that I saw that I do not feel comfortable describing. And so I've not described them to anyone. And the primary reason is that even though on the screen it showed no degree of classification, I'm watching a flying saucer operating. So if I had clues as to how this vehicle was functioning, and I told that to people, and subsequent more advanced vehicles were using the same kind of techniques, by me telling what I saw, I would inadvertently give away clues for the more advanced craft. And I'm a loyal American. I don't intend to give anything to anybody that would be negative to the United States of America. So I can't really describe that. But what it did do was that it just lifted up 3 feet off the ground, and it was just as smooth as a feather with a light breath. If I'd not been directly looking at it, I don't know that I would have even noticed the motion. Now, on the beams, there were horizontal rectangles from the 1230 to 230 position, the 330 to 530 position. And later I saw that it was at the 630 to 830 position and 930 to 1130 position. So circumferentially around the beam, there were these rectangles. And as soon as I saw them, I immediately thought, oh, this is an experimental craft, because you put markers so that you can follow every motion. At the 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock position, there were 3 vertical black rectangles. And so I was looking at these, and this was kind of blowing my mind. Well, all of a sudden, it began to rotate, just as smooth, no detected motion, except that I could see these rectangles moving. Well, as the 12 o'clock position moved over to where I could see it, I could see that right on the beam, it said U.S. Air Force.
Oh, wow.
Just above that, there was an Air Force flight insignia. So I was already shocked. Now I'm more shocked because I'm seeing, what to me, as soon as I saw this, I thought, we are reverse engineering some craft that we recovered at some point, and now we're trying to make it work. So it rotated clockwise 360 degrees. It went 360 degrees counterclockwise. It moved to the left, it moved to the right, it moved forward, it moved back. And so it's just like they're going through basic control mechanisms to make sure everything's working. But then it did something really peculiar. So if this was the vehicle, you can't see that very well. If this was the vehicle, all of a sudden it raised its nose to a 45-degree position. Now then, if it were flying, that would be a 45-degree angle of attack. But it wasn't flying. It wasn't moving. Now, I flew attack helicopters, Hueys, T-38s, and F-16s. So I'm familiar with aerodynamics for all of the vehicles that we had available. There was no craft that could go to a 45-degree angle and remain motionless. Now then, in a helicopter, if you're sitting and hovering, you can change the angle of the rotor disc. But as soon as you do that, you're going to create a thrust vector the opposite direction. So you're going to start moving. This thing obtained this 45-degree angle of attack and had not moved 1 centimeter from where its center of mass had risen from the floor. So I'm really just totally shocked at this. Well, just about that time, there's a knock on the door. And somebody says, hey, why is the door locked? Well, the major that was sitting beside me reaches over real quick and punches the button, turns off the computer, turns off the screen, and says, don't tell anyone I showed you this. Well,
Right.
I'm sitting there thinking, you just showed me a stinking flying saucer. Who would I say that to? Well, he goes over to the door and opens it. And so the other 3 officers from that office come in. One's a lieutenant colonel who outranks both of us. And then there were 2 captains. Well, the lieutenant colonel said, what's going on in here that you had the door locked? So this other major says, well, I had this skin thing and I was afraid it might be cancer. So I locked the door for my privacy, and I was wanting to get Doc's opinion on it. So now they're all looking at me. Now, that screen did not show any degree of classification. It did not show a location marker, a time marker, a date marker. So it was a completely clean screen. Now, I'm looking over at this. If there had been anything that had definitely stated classified, I've got to report this guy. But as I'm looking at these guys, if this major saw it, the lieutenant colonel probably showed it to him. And the other two guys probably saw this as well. So I'm going to have to report all of them. I'm going to have to go to their chain of command and say, hey, they just showed me an unauthorized video of a flying saucer. I'm going to have to go to the security people. I'm going to have to report a security violation, and that's going to start a whole big chain of events. But also, I'm going to have to go back to my colonel and tell him, sir, I don't know how to tell you this, but while I was at the Cape, this guy showed me a flying saucer, so I turned them all in for a security violation. So there's a security investigation going on. Their chain of command is taking care of it, but their chain of command went through our chain of command and all the way up to the general. And so if I told that to my colonel, I said, I also had to report me. So probably in the next few minutes, you're going to get a call from the general, and he's going to want to know from you what I was doing looking at a flying saucer. So all of this is going through my mind, just very rapidly. And so I decided, I'm going to do what the astronauts, the pilots, the commercial pilots, and all the other people that have seen these things did in the military, because you didn't talk about this in 1992. So I just said, it wasn't cancer. I got to go. I got to get back to my clinic. So boom, I booked it out of there, got in my car, drove 30 miles down to Patrick Air Force Base. And by the time I got there, I decided I'm not saying nothing to nobody. I didn't even tell my wife about this for 15 years.
Oh, wow.
So the entire time I was with the Department of Defense, I did not tell anybody. But on April 30th of this year, I retired from the Department of Defense. So on the 4th of May, I had a podcast and revealed this story. And when I did, it just blew up all over the place. And next thing, just like 3 days later, Newsweek is running an article about it. The New York Post has an article about me. There's articles all over the world, and all kinds of stuff is going on. And I have to say that, I've been very surprised at just exactly what all has happened since I said that. I went out to Contact in the Desert, which is a UFO convention out in California. And so I had mentioned my book, Impact. It was very important to me because I wrote that book because the NASA managers would not allow the space shuttle crews to take up repair kits in their space shuttle orbiters. And so if their orbiters became damaged with the thermal protection system, they had no way to fix it. And so I wrote a book to emphasize the fact that we've got to have a repair kit. Well, that was the book that Buzz Aldrin contacted me about. Well, 8 years later, the Columbia was damaged at the time of launch. There was a hole in the reinforced carbon on the leading edge of the left wing. And when they tried to come back down from space, the 2,300 degree temperatures just burned right through that left wing, and we lost the Columbia and her crew. Well, we lost that because nobody was paying attention to my book that I wrote in 1995. Actually, a lot of people were. I had a book signing with Jim Lovell Jr. There was a guy that was in the LOEC, the loss of orbiter entry capability. And he came to me and he said, I'll tell you, Major Rogers, your book is my worst nightmare. When we discuss what could happen that we lose another crew, the discussion you have in your book is probably why that would happen. Well, 8 years after I basically predicted that this would happen if they did not send up a repair kit.
Why do you think they didn't send repair kits up? Why do you think they didn't do that? Why do you think they didn't send repair kits up?
Space and politics. Every ounce was valuable when you're launching a space shuttle. So if you were going to put, say, a 70-pound repair kit on, you're going to have to take 70 pounds of something else off. And so there were always universities and companies wanting to send up experiments. So NASA, I believe, did not want to tell a company, we're taking your...
Oops. You're muted. You've got, there we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I talked about this at Contact in the Desert. 10 days after I came back from Contact in the Desert, I got an email from the publisher of Impact that said, we no longer want to print your book. We do not want to publish it. We do not want to distribute it. All rights are reserved back to you, and you know, have a good day. So my book just died right in front of me 10 days after I got back from Contact in the Desert. So you know,
well, we're going to fix that with NX Media. We will be republishing that book shortly.
Yes. So I appreciate you doing that. And so then people said, you know, you've got to write a book about all of this. Well, I did end up writing a book, and I took the title from what the guy told me. We got it from them. There you go. And
hot off the press.
Yeah, I'll tell you, you did a fine job, Margie, in putting that together. So I'm very proud of that.
Thank you.
But as you know, we had trouble getting that book published. You know, on your computer, it disappeared, and you said, hey, Greg, send me another copy of the manuscript. I've lost mine. Well, when I went on my computer at the same day, I had lost it from my computer. However, being a little bit paranoid, I had made 5 copies on 5 different thumb drives that I held in 5 different locations. So I got one of my thumb drives, put it back on, send it to you, and we finally were able to get the book out. But
we got it done.
It seems like somebody didn't want that book published.
Exactly. Somebody didn't. And so needless to say, it's in multiple locations in case it ever drops off of Amazon, but we will be publishing that in other locations too. So the information about the book and Dr. Rogers is on unxmedia.com if you want more information about that. And another thing that's occurred, Dr. Rogers, that I did not tell you about yet, I don't think. When we spoke on the phone last, I heard some noises in the background that weren't from us. And so I know my phones are tapped, my cell phones, I know our Comcast system is. We've actually caught them red-handed several times messing with our Comcast wires outside Xfinity. And so, you know, I don't know what they're going to do. Everybody knows about UFOs now, and the Pentagon says, hey, it's real. There are unidentified flying objects. We don't know what they are. So, you know, this is perfect timing for you. In 1992, you couldn't have come out with this book.
Oh,
but
no,
now it's okay.
Yes, I think the biggest key is that, first of all, there was the release of the FA-18 Super Hornet videos where the pilots are seeing them visually. They're seeing them in forward-looking infrared. They're identifying them. They're tracking them. The radar ships supporting the carrier strike group are recording those, and then they were released to the New York Times, and then Congress finally decided, we're going to get to the bottom of this. Well, when people have asked me, do you think you're going to get in trouble with this? Well, I reply this. When I joined the military, I swore to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Congress is part of the federal government. Congress and the congressmen and women have said, we want people to come forward and tell their stories. So this is an authorization from one of the constitutional elements of what the United States government is. So especially when I saw David Grush give his testimony, it was very compelling. But at one point he said that he knew of people who had seen reverse engineered craft, but they were not willing to come forward and speak before Congress. Well, he could not do anything else. He had heard about it secondhand. Well, as I was sitting there thinking, I thought, well, shoot, I saw one. I can come forward and confirm what David Grush has said because I saw it. So I can't confirm all of the stuff David Grush has said and what all he's seen, because his level of security about those elements were far above mine. But when he says, look, there are people who saw a reverse engineered spacecraft, I can raise my hand and say, look,
yep,
I'm one of those people. I can testify to that. So that's what I've been doing in all of these different podcasts.
And hopefully you'll be testifying before Congress before too long about that as well. Hopefully. I do have a contact, so I am going to be sending him your information as well. And maybe that'll do some good.
Well, if they invite me, I will speak. If they don't invite me, I won't.
But you'll keep talking anyway. So
but I'll keep talking anyway.
It's getting out there to the public, and that's what people need to know. And the one thing that I am curious about is if in 1992 the U.S. Air Force had that technology that they got from them, okay, as you said, but how many of those craft have they perfected and are in our skies and are being misidentified as UFOs?
Okay, well, first of all, I would want to clarify something. In my mind, having worked with all of the defense operations and the support corporations and defense contractors, I want to remind people that the Air Force has never built an airplane. When the Air Force wants an airplane, they will give contractors the information for what we want them to build. And then the contractors have the technology to build the new aircraft. And then when they show it to the Air Force and it is suitable to join the Air Force inventory, then we purchase it from them. The vehicle that I saw that day in 1992, I do not believe was in the U.S. Air Force inventory. I believe it was owned probably by either a corporation or maybe a consortium of different contractors. For instance, if we build an F-22, well, we're going to give one contract to Lockheed. We're going to give the engines to General Electric. We're going to take all of these different elements. For the avionics, we're going to give that contract to Raytheon. So every time we have a military craft. It has been built and operated by multiple contractors before it was ever turned over to the U.S. Air Force. So this is what the contractors were doing in 92. How far they have progressed since then, you know, I would only be able to speculate.
Oh my goodness, I've got so many more questions for you. We will have to have you come back. And thank you so much for being on the show this evening and explaining your story. This is just fascinating and amazing. And thank you so much for allowing me to publish the book. And
well, I appreciate you doing it.
All right. Well, we will, we're getting it out there. Lots of press releases, lots of shows that you're going to be doing. You were just on Coast. So
yeah, I was on Coast to Coast this morning, in fact.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be on Conversation with Cheryl, but it seemed like George did most of the talking.
Well, that's okay. That's what George does. It's his show.
Well, yeah. He's George
Mm-hmm.
Norrie, so you know he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah. And so yeah, you've done a lot of big shows. Your information is at unxmedia.com. We've got a page just for Dr. Rogers on that site. So if you want to know more, just go to unxmedia.com. Thank you so much, Dr. Rogers, and we will be in touch.
Okay, it was a real pleasure.
Okay. All right, everybody, that wraps it up again with a big story this evening. Thank you for joining me, and share this podcast with everybody you know, your friends and family. They need to see this one. We'll see you next week.